have 12 runners listed now by Graham.
And over this 6 furlong trip, the stalls placed on the stand side. Number 1 is Roaring Reaver, Michael Wigham rides, drawn 2. 2 Bridesmaid Blinkard, she normally is Kashas Mooson 4. 4 Farncombe, Paul Cook 9. 5 is God's Lane, Jeff Baxter rides, drawn 8. Number 7, Neon, Alan Proud, drawn 7. 8 Perion, Steve Cawthon 11. 9 Philip Visored, normally is Kim Tinkler rides, drawn 3. 10 Rotherfield Greys, Padeddery 5. 12 K Simpatica, John Reed, successful in the big race, drawn 10. 14 Singing Stephen Blinkard, Brian Rouse rides 13. 15 Crothers Klein, Paul Eddery 6. And 16 rank outsider perhaps Peatswood Shooter, Kevin Darley, drawn 1. 12 runner lineup then for this Cammidge Trophy.
The horses are just coming in, and the filly, the grey filly there, Bridesmaid. She's the 7-2 second favourite, and coming now is the master of Manton, Barry Hills. Very quick word with you, Barry. Could this be your first winner? The camera's up there. Will this be your first winner, Bridesmaid?
Well, she's very well and pleased with her. She's going very happy in Manton. She was a little bit funny last year, but she's very happy herself.
And the ground here, will that be all right?
No, she won't mind the ground.
Just use this camera, so this mic. So the ground's all right. You're hopeful.
I wouldn't be happy with the ground.
You won't be.
No.
No. So you want a bit. You know.
They're all going to go in it.
Oh, of course they have. All the best.
Thank
the
you.
new master of Manton, Barry Hills, almost hot off the walkway here. The favourite now, that's the 7-2 second favourite, Bridesmaid. Favourite early is K Simpatica, number 12 at 2-1. Other prices we can put in are 7 Rotherfield Greys. That would certainly like the firm ground, they think. And one thing that I've got, my old friend Jim McGrath will have our little argument again. There are 3 3-year-olds in this race. Now, my theory is 3-year-olds cannot beat older horses in March. It's suffered a slight reverse on the first day of the season. But Jim McGrath, surely you don't believe that any of these 3 3-year-olds are worth a shilling of your money against older horses?
Yes, but there's a much better reason today, because at the terms that these horses run against the older horses, they are in fact giving the older horses weight if you calculate things. There's number 12, the hot favourite, K Simpatica, for whom everything is right. Big, strong filly, now trained by Charlie Nelson. Was trained last year by Ron Boss. Won a race here over this course and distance at Doncaster. It was the Solar Glass Energy Stakes, and she was pretty impressive too.
Tuffu, one off the rails, Bridge Street Lady in the blue, and with 2.5 furlongs to go, it's still Meeson King from Bridge Street Lady. Catherine's Well, Jerovian gets a split. Catherine's Well coming fast on the outside. Also making a good run in the pale jacket is Baton Boy, 2 out, a wide open race, and Jerovian now goes for home. Jerovian from Baton Boy. Catherine's Well, Jokist now just 2 off the fence. The Grey getting a good run. Chaplin's Club right on the fence, and K Simpatica a furlong to go. The whole race changes as K Simpatica swoops through to take up the running and quickly goes clear. K Simpatica by 2 lengths. Jokist eaves up close home. K Simpatica, Jerovian and Baton Boy. Chaplin's Club, no danger to the winner. K Simpatica.
Must be a tremendous feeling for a jockey when he's sitting on a horse behind others, knowing he's got that telling burst to come. K Simpatica usually runs like that. She's gone well fresh before. She was 3rd in this last year. She's a worthy favourite, and if she puts her best foot forward, must be desperately hard to beat. So from a hot favourite to an outsider, number 5, God's Lane. Roan Colt by Godswalk. Godswalk gets all sorts of horses. He sired Ibn Majd, who won over the extreme distance of 2.25 miles yesterday. He's now the sire of this horse, God's Lane, who's a sprinter and who won over 5 furlongs, a maiden race at Mallow last year. In fact, that was one of 3 wins he's enjoyed. He is a useful horse, but overall level of his form suggests he's at least a stone behind the horses that ran in England last year that are in this race. And I would think that it's very much, though he'll be doing his absolute best, it'll be a sighter to see where Lord John Fitzgerald and team should think about campaigning him for the rest of the season. You can see Jeff Baxter grimacing there as he gets in the saddle, because it must be pretty uncomfortable. Look at the stable lad turning his head into the horse to try and keep the snow, and poor old God's Lane is walking with his ears back. He doesn't like it much either. So there's one grey. Here's another, Bridesmaid, Visored, because basically, like one or 2 animals by London Bells, she's a bit of a madam, this filly. She has a lot of ability. Barry Hills has told us on more than one occasion on Channel 4 that she won't work at home. She's difficult to get fit, which is why he runs her so often. She had a busy season last year. She won the Sandy Lane Leisure Stakes at Haydock in good style from Sperry. That was a good performance, and had one or two other good efforts. But she's a filly of mood. She needs things to go away. Barry's already told you the ground's ideal for her. You can see just about to give Brent a leg into the saddle. But apparently you don't want to get too near this filly's rear end. She's quite happy to lash out and show you what she thinks. So, from Bridesmaid to Singing Stephen, who's following her around. One blinkered runner to another. Singing Stephen, although he wears blinkers, so from what we know is a wonderfully genuine and consistent horse, or was last year. He had a very busy season, improved throughout it, ended up by winning his last 2 races, notably the Cornwallis Stakes at Ascot. All his wins have been over 5 furlongs. One of them was over an extended 5, but all of them basically over 5, and he is a horse with pace. The other point about him is that at 8 stone 9 against Case Simpatica's 8 stone 13, when you take into account that weight for age is a stone, he has a tremendous amount to do here. It's for that reason I don't fancy the 3-year-olds this afternoon, not for McCririck's old wives' tale. And here's a betting show.
And they go 9-4 the favourite, Case Simpatica. Bridesmaid 7-2 from 3-1. And Singing Stephen 6-1 from 5s. Perion into 6-1 from an opening price of 8s. And Rotherfield Gray's an 8-1 chance. Crofters Klein on 10s and 12-1 bar those.
Crofters Klein, beautifully turned out, looks tremendously well. A tough and consistent 2-year-old last season who won at 5 and 6 furlongs. As yet unproven on soft ground. And upped in class here, really has quite a lot to do, but remains to be seen whether a winter over his back has improved him. If it has, he might run well. He's trained by Captain Jimmy Wilson at Preston. He's ridden by Paul Edery. I know that Jimmy's daughter Geraldine Rees, a well-known figure on the racing circuit, is laid up at home. She had a horrible back injury at Ayr the other day. I hope Gillian, or Geraldine rather, if you're watching, Geraldine, you're out and about soon. There's 15, Crofters Klein with Pat Edery. Here's his brother, with Paul Edery. Here's his brother, Pat Edery, with Rotherfield Grays. Already down at the start, taken down early, this horse. Great big strong son of Mummy's Pet. A horse who had a tremendous season last year. You can see there on our picture that he's got a little bit warm behind the saddle. Had a tremendous season last year with several wins in competitive handicaps. One of those was in the middle of the summer in the Limpack handicap. Just watch him power home. There he is on the outside with the white noseband, comes to take it off Dublin Lad, and Clantime on the rails, and running on really well, sprints clear. Look at his stride, he's got an exaggerated action, Rotherfield Grays, and remember the ground is soft this afternoon. It was firm this day at York. I doubt very much whether he'll be so effective a horse under today's conditions as he was last year on the fast ground. I'm not saying he won't win, I just feel that it's a lot different today. He wouldn't carry my money. 9 is Philip, Kim Tinkler riding for husband Nigel. Philip was another one who had a tremendous season last year. Nigel got Kim to ride this yesterday when he couldn't secure the services of a top class or one of the leading male jockeys. I hope Kim wasn't insulted by being second string. Philip is best probably at 5 furlongs, although he's got form at 6. Also, really, he's a handicapper and he hasn't run for a long time. I would doubt whether he'd be sharp enough or have conditions in his favour in this race this afternoon. Kim jig jogging to keep warm. Number 8, Perion. Again, a handicapper like Philip, a horse who's well suited by today's conditions and is well drawn. Steve Cawthon and Pat Edery chatting together. Perion with Steve on, Pat on Rotherfield Grays. Perion is well fancied by Jeff Lewis, whose horse Homme de Fer ran very well the other day. But in all honesty, if you look at a form book, you can't give Perion any chance. You'd be getting lumps of weight from these if it were a handicap. So, a duo down there in the paddock. What news from our man in the ring on those two?
Bottle, 2-1 the field, 2-1. 2 favourites have won the Cammidge Trophy in 6 runnings, and this Case Simpatica, they took all the top of the head 9-4, is now 2-1. Bridesmaid is proving weak, 3-7-2, they're now calling on the shoulders, 9-2 against Bridesmaid, but it is proving a good betting heat, this. Perrion, for instance, number 8's been back 10 to 1. They're now calling 7 to 1 against Perrion. Rutherfield Gray's on the slide, 7 out to 8 to 1. It's 7, which one, Doug? Rutherfield is back to 7 to 1, Rutherfield Grays. Singing Stephen is weak, 5 out to 7. But listen to this, Crofters Klein, 10 to 1 into 8 to 1, the 3-year-old. And the Springer has turned up, our first Springer that we've had on telly that I can remember this season. Number 16, Peatswood Shooter, 20 to 1. They're now calling 10 to 1. All the prices down for Mel Britton's horse. And of course, he won the first race with that extraordinary name, Paver Shoes. So the 3-year-olds and Jim McGrath will be delighted to hear this. They're backing the 3-year-olds. And a new show. And Ladbrokes, the magic sign, are going round for Case in Baedeker. Bottle 2 to 1, the very best you can get. But those 3-year-olds, Jim, why are they backing them?
I don't know, John, but our producer's been telling me frantically in my ear that he wants everybody to know that you are not wearing a dress. Peatswood Shooter is an interesting horse. The steamer that John talked about, we'll try and find him for you in a minute. To the left of picture in the grey colours is the horse at the top of the weights, Michael Wigham riding that. That's Roaring Reaver, colt by Music Boy out of Elton Abbas. Now, Roaring Reaver won a Group 1 race as a 2-year-old. He subsequently didn't really prove up too top class, despite that important win. But he's really saddled with that in as much as, because he won that valuable prize and collected the lolly, when he turns up in races like the Cammidge Trophy or a Group 3 or a Group 2 race, he has to carry more weight than the others. And as it seems that he's not good enough to beat them, it seems awfully unfair. So, couldn't really fancy Roaring Reaver, certainly on what he did last year. There's Peatswood Shooter in the grey colours. Now in the middle of your picture, number 16, Kevin Darley riding this one. John's reported money for it. Kevin Darley told you earlier he hoped it would run well. And there's every reason to think he will, because Peatswood Shooter was a horse who went particularly well in hot, deep ground last year. He won a total of 4 races, all of them on soft or heavy ground. The only thing against him here is that he's drawn 1, and in a small field, that seemed to be something of a disadvantage this week. But a horse for whom conditions are perfect. Scene 14, the one we haven't seen.
That one, and Rutherfield Gray's reverting back to 7 to 1 from 8 to 1. Peatswood Shooter now 10 to 1 from 14. That's McCraig Springer, and Crofters Klein 11 to 1 from 10, 12 to 1 Barlows.
There's the favourite, Case in Baedeker, big, strong, slightly dipped back mare. You can see, still got a few hairs below her chin, often a sign that horses, she's looking at the camera for you. She goes, well...
Out and running for the Cammidge Trophy, and Farncombe has refused to race, taking no part in the action whatsoever, all coming over to the stand side. Peatswood Shooter racing fast, Brides made up for the brace. Crofters Klein right next to the rails is Singing Stephen, pink sleeve jacket, and Crofters Klein leads the cavalry charge. No, he doesn't. Peatswood Shooter's got it to the 4 now, and brought right over from stall 1 right to the stand side rail, showing blistering speed. Crofters Klein in second, Bridesmaids racing third, Rutherfield Grays in the pale jacket on the right of the group. The one that's absolutely tailed off is Farncombe, and they come down towards the halfway stage, and Peatswood Shooter in the lead from Bridesmaid in second, and Crofters Klein third, and Singing Stephen 4, and then Roaring Reaver 5, and Case in Baedeker, green sleeve jacket starts to make ground, about time too. 2.5 furlongs to go, and Peatswood Shooter out in the lead from Bridesmaid getting a lead in second, then Roaring Reaver plugging on in third. They've got a furlong and a half to go, and it's Peatswood Shooter in the lead from Bridesmaid in second, and Roaring Reaver third, and Crofters Klein 4, and Case in Baedeker shouldn't be winning as Perrion stays on, but the Springer is clear. And it's Peatswood Shooter inside the final furlong. Peatswood Shooter by 2, 3, 4 lengths. Bridesmaid swishes his tail and doesn't want to know. Peatswood Shooter goes further clear as he races up towards the line. And Peatswood Shooter wins this emphatically. Drawn 1. Peatswood Shooter the winner, Bridesmaid second, Perrion third. Crofters Klein 4, Roaring Reaver 5, Case in Baedeker 6. Then came God's Lane, finished home with Singing Stephen. But these clear of Rutherfield Grays, who didn't really like the ground, and then came Neon and tailed off was Philip. And so the outcome of this Cammidge Trophy, it's a win for number 16, Peatswood Shooter, owned by Mr. G.G. Ashton, trained at Ward Hill by Mel Britton, who won this race last year with that grand old campaigner, Grady's Eye.